Welcome to the Smart Gamble in between the Super Bowl edition. It's the Smart Gamble first annual award show, guys. I decided to dress up, I guess.
I love it.
CJ always looks so damn sharp during these recordings. Lily, you always look beautiful. I had to step up my game for an award show. I've been the slop of the show. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I can't wear a sweatshirt or something like that while we're recording. Hey, I'm recording at home and it does that. But we're classing it up. If you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously see. If you're listening, just imagine we are the sharpest three football experts that you'll ever see now. Getting ready to entertain you in that weird week before the Super Bowl, where you have that dumb thing called the Pro Bowl. I know CJ and I were just talking about. I guess, CJ, you mentioned there's a little buzz because the Pro Bowl is in Las Vegas this year.
Yeah, Vegas is becoming more and more a pro sports town, obviously with the Raiders coming and the Golden Knights in hockey. And of course, This Pro Bowl, I think this is going to be something where people are going to look forward to coming here every year, hopefully every year, with the Pro Bowl and make it a little bit more exciting. I think before you couldn't get people to come out to Hawaii, especially even after it was the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun time of year for this Pro Bowl.
I agree. And at least that city's got a buzz about it. Because when it's Hawaii, like the locals, they're probably like, what the hell are they doing here? At least the locals in Vegas are like, hey, we know what's going on. I guess we could talk about the Pro Bowl in a little bit, but we want to talk about the real exciting stuff, which is, I guess, let's start with last week, because again, guys, we got spoiled.
We did two great games. Loving the way the Bengals came back against the Chiefs last week, and of course that San Fran the Rams game was amazing. So great games, two great games,
2 straight weeks.
Yep, and I called both of the underdogs to cover.
Yep,
and they did.
Streak continues.
Yep. I too had those dogs. I had both underdogs as well. So the bankroll is increasing. Let's put it that way.
Right, and the Beng. I guess all three of us were on the Bengals. If we
absolutely,
if we want to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, I think this was a very Bengals pro-centric. Would have been a very pro Bengals show for show us the money for the entire season or so, and we've been rewarded with Joe Cool, Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl.
The man.
Yeah, I always look forward to his press conferences after games because I want to find out what he wears, what he says, and so forth. And it's just how much he can amaze us with his cool. He's an amazing guy. He's gonna have a nice
which sunglasses?
Sunglasses, which jacket?
If they win the Super Bowl, I need him to reenact the LSU picture after the national championship and be sitting in a locker room smoking a cigar still in his pants. Like
might see it.
I need that picture.
We just might see it.
And we'll talk about that Super Bowl preview. But yeah, I mean, in OT, knocking out the Chiefs. I mean, is this a? Let me ask you this, guys, because again, we are very pro Bengals. I don't know how that happened, but I think we all kind of latched onto this team. Is this a case of we are seeing a really young core team and a really great young quarterback coming into their own, and they're going to establish themselves as a contender each year? I'm not going to say they're going to be in the Super Bowl because the Chiefs are still in this conference. The Chargers are still in this. This is still a very tough conference. But are they going to be perennial contenders, or is this a 2018, I believe it was, Jaguars, where they're kind of a flash in the pan? What do you guys think it more is?
They're here to stay. Don't you agree, CJ?
I think so. I think they've added themselves to the list of teams like the Buffalo Bills type teams. Right. Obviously, KC is there. And maybe even the Raiders as well. I think that they've added themselves to that list of teams that you look for every year to be in the playoffs, to make a deep run in the playoffs. They've got a great quarterback. They've got a great wide receiver in Jamar Chase. I think that we can look for the Bengals to be there. for the most part of the year going forward.
I agree. I completely agree. I think we're all in agreement. This is not
Yep.
a fluke. And
No.
I will say I'll even get ahead of it right now. I know we are trying not to make our Super Bowl picks this show. We're going to be saving those for next week. So if you're looking for the prop bets and the Super Bowl picks, that's next week. But even still, and I'm not saying this is going to be my pick or anything like that, even if the Bengals were to show up flat in the Super Bowl and the Rams win big, I still agree with everything we just said that they are still here to be perennial contenders.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind as well is, I mean, just to juxtapose what I just said, I think that there are times when we do see a couple of teams like the state Baltimore Ravens. I mean, have the Ravens peaked? Are they on their way down? And
Right.
I think with the Bengals, I think they have to just be careful to make sure that they continue to build this team just so that they aren't going to be a flash in the pan. So I think it remains to be seen. But for what I'm seeing so far, I like Joe Burrow. I like what he brings to the table. They have a
Yep.
good young coach, and I think they're going to be there for a
Yep.
bit.
And by the way, these are the youngest coaches in NFL history.
Oh my God, yeah, they're like my age.
Yes.
At the Super Bowl, yes.
Hey, Norm, you made that little comment last week about that whole geriatric thing. I haven't forgotten that. Okay, I haven't forgotten that.
But yeah, I mean, this was when Sean McVay, and we'll talk about the Rams' big comeback in a second here too. But when the Rams made the Super Bowl a few years ago against the Patriots, that was, he was the youngest coach ever to make the Super Bowl at that point. Zach Taylor's right there with him. Like, the Bengals hired Zach Taylor that year after because everyone then was trying to get their Sean McVay. Like, he was one of those hires because that becomes like the hot thing when something like that happens. And it's worked out. It's worked out for both of these teams.
Yeah, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. We'll get to it when we talk about the coaching carousel. But I think that is another example of some of the fact that these teams are going younger. They're getting younger, more innovative.
Yeah.
And some of these older retreads, I think, hopefully, I want to see them decline in being hired. And people like Zach Taylor and Matt LaFleur and all these young guys, Sean McVay, hopefully they'll continue to get chances to coach in this league because they are young and innovative.
Right. Yeah. LaFleur is another guy you mentioned. I think he's got the best record in the NFL as head coach since he was hired. So it's definitely worked out for some of those teams. Obviously, the Packers are sitting at home, though, and have to deal with that whole Aaron Rodgers situation, which we're going to get to also in a second here.
Yes.
But let's talk about that Rams comeback. I mean, did anyone in that third quarter think that they had it in them?
Well, I always kind of wonder in that game, did the Rams win it? The San Francisco Niners lose it?
Right.
In my mind, I think the Rams did what they did. They have the talent on both sides of the ball, but I still think that it might be even more of the fact that the Niners lost that game than the Rams won it. And I wonder what you guys think about that.
I totally agree. I had the 49ers to cover, which they did because it was 3.5.
Yep.
But I honestly thought that they would. I know. I honestly thought they would win outright. Honestly, they did lose that game, and the Rams won it by accident.
Yeah.
It's
definitely a combination. Yeah, go ahead, Norm.
I was gonna say it goes back to you always got to look at who's the head coach of the 49ers. It's Kyle Shanahan. As much as I love him as a head coach and an offensive coordinator, I think he's a wonderfully talented, one of the better coaching minds in this league. What's he known for? He was the offensive coordinator of the Falcons when they blew that lead in the Super Bowl.
Ooh, that's right. That's right.
This is another stain on that record. So, yeah, I tend to agree with the Rams. Definitely, they had to pull their part. They had to perform in that second half as well. But the 49ers definitely played a part in that, handing it back to them. And that's something that I don't know. Are like, I think we can all agree the Rams, they're very deserving of being here, and who knows what their window will be. They've got a lot of 1-year guys they trade for and a lot of big contracts and whatnot. They almost seem like a mercenary team. But I don't know. Is this 49ers window now shut?
Well, you know something? They obviously drafted Trey Lance for a reason.
Yeah.
Obviously with Jimmy G. I mean, I like Jimmy G. I like his game, but unfortunately, he has a penchant for throwing a heartbreaking interception or the overthrow. And I think that we've seen the last of Jimmy G in San Fran. But as far as the Niners go, I still think that the base of that team is their running game, the way they run, the way they play defense. They can find a good quarterback. I think they're back in it next year as well. I have no doubt that they'll be there again next year.
All right. All right. Well, let's move on to, because I think where Jimmy G ends up might be part of this conversation. Guys, we were talking about it. Was it Saturday morning when we recorded last week's episode? We're like, I think all three of us are like, yeah, Tom Brady, he's done. He's retiring. We've seen the last of Tom Brady. And I want to say, like, I don't even think I had uploaded the episode yet. And the first news, Adam Schefter broke that Tom Brady was retiring. It took a few days and a couple like, no, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Yes, he is.
Right.
Before he was officially retiring. But guys, the GOAT is gone.
It's gonna be kind of strange not seeing Tom Brady around. It really is. But you
especially not in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Right? They probably ought to rename that trophy the Tom Brady Award because he's won it 7 times.
Right.
So, but it'll be interesting to see what the Bucs do without him. I mean, the guy literally had nothing else to prove, and I think that him putting his body, you know, on line for another year just didn't make sense. So I think it was a good move for him. I think that the way it kind of slithered out, I don't know if he and his camp were ready to make that announcement when it broke. I think it slipped out. It got leaked. And he had to do some damage control. Says, well, I'm still kind of thinking about it, but I think he didn't want to have that news come out right away. So that's probably why we saw that. Yeah.
He didn't have his Instagram post ready.
Yeah.
So that leaves now what we like to see as a quarterback vacancy in Tampa Bay. Big Ben also officially retired, so we've got that vacancy in Pittsburgh. Right. We all are in agreement that we're not seeing Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay. Who replaces these guys? I mean, these are 3 huge quarterbacks that have been in their spots for decades at this point. And all 3, like, you know, huge franchises that now have holes. Well, I guess the Bucs, maybe a huge franchise, I don't know. But 3 at least good teams that should be in the running every year. Do you guys, you know, we could talk all 3 at the same time here. Like, who do you think replaces, or throw some names out? Who might be the guys to replace these guys?
What are you thinking, CJ?
I'm thinking, okay, I think this is going to be a pretty good offseason for what I call their secondary quarterback market. So veterans that are on teams right now that have had some experience, as opposed to maybe going directly to the draft. Because I don't think this coming draft, or maybe even the following year's draft, really has any really major pearls of, you know, for quarterbacks. So I think people like Jimmy Garoppolo, who we just mentioned, I think people like Jameis Winston, and even maybe Gardner Minshew back up in Philadelphia. I think he's got some experience, and he's got a chance to kind of prove himself as a starter at some point. So I look for those 3 guys to get their phones ringing off the hook in the coming weeks and months, to see if those guys can wind up in Pittsburgh, in Tampa, or New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, New Orleans might be another. Yeah, I didn't even think about Jameis. That's a good throw out there. That
it is.
I mean, if you put the right team around him, he's proved like he's that guy. He's one of the most entertaining guys in the league to me, because you never know what's going to happen when he throws the ball.
And the problem is he doesn't know either. So
but yeah, you mentioned Jimmy G, which I was kind of alluding to. But what about, we mentioned, I mean, this is another, we never know what the situation's gonna be like. There's still a cloud looming over. But Deshaun Watson, can you see him ending up in one of these spots? Or what about Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Ooh, all right. Well, you mentioned, I think that as much as we are talking about the quarterbacks that are available, I think also scheme matters as well. I think some of these quarterback coaches' combinations really matter a lot. Yeah, but I can see Russell Wilson changing teams. I can see some of those other quarterbacks being moved around as well. So I think it's going to be really, really good in the season. I think Deshaun Watson is probably the biggest whopper. He's got a lot of talent out there, but there's always going to be that specter of him, of those sexual soul claims following around. So the question is going to be, who is going to be willing to take on that PR hit by signing this guy? Despite his talent, there's always going to be these people who are going to want to boycott or complain because of those allegations. So that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, that talent, the more talent you have, the more second chances and leniency, I guess, you can kind of get. And he's got talent in spades. So I think that's why his name even comes up right now. But
exactly,
I think it's funny because you mentioned Jimmy G, and who's to say Aaron Rodgers, like that Green Bay opening, who's to say he doesn't go to Pittsburgh or Tampa Bay? It's going to be really funny because it's going to be Denver, yeah. And then that opens up, it's going to be like a domino effect of like one of these guys might go somewhere, which leads to another guy going somewhere, and then that quarterback's got to go somewhere. Like I've seen Rodgers mentioned going to Tennessee because now he's bought property in Nashville.
Wow.
So like if that happens, then where's Tannehill gonna go? Like that, he's a quarterback I could see if he goes to one of these spots being, still being a contender. So like it's gonna be a domino effect of this, connect the dots. This guy goes here, which pushes this guy out, who goes here, which pushes this guy out, who goes here. It's gonna be a fun offseason.
I think the one thing that I can make an assumption of, and this is just me, just talking off the cuff here, I don't know how much Green Bay is in love, but you're in love. I think that they are dying to get rid of that guy.
Right.
In there. I don't think they like him. I don't think they trust him. The most fun rumor that I've heard this whole season is a trade between San Francisco and Green Bay. You send Garoppolo and Trey Lance to Green Bay in exchange for Aaron Rodgers. Hot tip, you heard it here first.
So they would right the wrong from 17, 18 years ago when they passed on him at number one, and all would be right in the world. Aaron Rodgers gets to play for his hometown 49ers.
You heard it here first. We'll see how it goes.
That would be, oh man, that's stuff that happens in the NBA. It doesn't happen in the NFL, sadly. You see more of that stuff happening in the NBA because trades and whatnot, and players forcing their way. I don't know. The NFL is starting to get that way too, with the NFL, like players forcing their way to places. But
yes, it is. Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, it's sometimes not always the greatest thing when it happens, but that would be a heck of a storyline. Because that's what the off season turns into. It's the fun storylines we track. Last off season was, where is Rodgers gonna stay or go, and I think that'll continue into this off season. But sadly, another off season topic that's going to be discussed for months, I think now as well, is this lawsuit that's come out from the Brian Flores situation with some interesting wrong text messages sent by Bill Belichick.
Yes.
This is not good. This is not a good look for the NFL and my Giants and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, when I first heard this was a major bombshell when I first heard this, and I've been listening and watching the aftermath in the last few days. Those text messages really can be pretty damning. I know that from what I understood, I guess Bill Belichick got the two Brians mixed up. He was trying to text Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
And he texted Brian Flores. Said, hey, you get the job is yours. And an hour later, he says, hey, I kind of misspoke here to Brian Flores. It's not you, it's Brian Daboll who they want to hire. And yet Brian Flores hasn't even got the interview yet. So it seemed pretty clear the Giants, despite the fact that they had Brian Flores on the schedule to be interviewed, they were going to hire Brian Daboll the whole time.
Yeah,
and that's a bad thing.
And it's tough because I mean, when you go out into the real world, I mean, what's everyone say when you're trying to find a job or trying to find, someone to help you out? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Like that's just like how the world works in any walk of life, really. And when the Giants hire Joe Shane, it's almost a foregone conclusion that they're going to hire Brian Daboll, right? Like they work together in Buffalo. I'm sure they're buddies. They had the scheme that's going to work together. It's no surprise that that's how it shook out. But the problem is, and this happens in the real world too, there's something called EEO, Equal Opportunity Employment, as well as in the NFL, the Rooney Rule, where you have to give a minority a chance at an interview. And we've seen for years now, the past few years, can Eric Bieniemy get a freaking job?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like this dude, again, in the AFC Championship game, is running the most innovative. And now Andy Reid has to come out and like, yes, this guy is calling plays. We're not seeing minorities get the jobs that they're deserving of. And we see, idiots like Adam Gase get jobs. And this is where this boils down to. It turns out teams are basically making a sham of the Rooney Rule and saying, well, we know we're hiring this guy, but we gotta
interview this guy.
We have to fulfill our requirement here. So hey, Flores, come on in. We know we're already hiring this guy, but now that this has been made aware and there's evidence that this is happening, of course it's my Giants that are in the middle of this. But
to add some more flavor to what your point was just now, Norm, is like the job in Jacksonville, for example. How does Doug Peterson get another job in Jacksonville when you got guys like Bieniemy and Byron Leftwich out there, and some of these other younger coaches and guys who haven't gotten a sniff? So it tells you there's definitely an old boys network going on, and to some extent in the NFL, and it's a shame. So hopefully this lawsuit might expose a little bit of that. Unfortunately, I am not totally convinced that Brian Flores can win this lawsuit, unfortunately, but at least it's going to come to the fore, and people are going to take a look at it and see what the inner workings really is in the NFL.
Right, and hopefully things do change from it.
100%. Yeah, I think you're right, CJ. Sadly, I don't know if it's a lawsuit that can be won. Maybe it does come out to a settlement or something like that. They just don't even want to deal with actually going through the whole lawsuit, and there's a settlement. But worst comes to worst, it's brought to light, and change can happen. I mean that's ultimately what you hope from. And I guess let's move, because you mentioned that Doug Peterson is now the head coach in Jacksonville. There has been some other coaching hires made. You have Kevin O'Connell taking over the Vikings job as well after Jim Harbaugh, pulls a yo-yo and says,
that was kind of interesting. I think his hand was forced. I think, again, back to that whole topic about the younger guys versus older guys. Harbaugh, I think it's like 59 years old or somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I think that at some point he kind of went there thinking, no, this job is mine. I've had success in the NFL before. But I think the NFL is going, we hope, more toward the younger guys, more innovative. And I think he went there thinking he would have it. He left there thinking that he wasn't going to get the job offered. So he says, hey, Michigan, I'm coming back,
I'm coming, before just get ahead of it.
It's like you're keeping your ex-girlfriend on the side there in case you need to get back to your ex-girlfriend. That was what he did.
It's not even. It's going out with your side piece and saying, "Hey, I ain't working," and then going back to your current girlfriend. It's not even ex at this point.
Exactly.
That's a whole interesting. Jim Harbaugh, man, he's never short for entertainment for folks like us that talk about the NFL and college football.
That is true.
But also, CJ, what's the feel out there for the Raiders hiring Josh McDaniels?
Right.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, the Raiders players loved Rich Bisaccia. They loved them.
Oh my God.
And I think that they were really, really pulling for him to get the offer to keep the job here in Vegas. Once Josh McDaniels got hired, there was some backlash. And I think they had to do some damage control to say, well, the fact that we like Rich Bisaccia is no disrespect to Josh McDaniel, but I think in reality, they really wanted Rich Bisaccia to stay. and they had to make sure that they put this, as far as a public, front to the media, make sure that they didn't give the impression that they didn't want to have McDaniels here. But I think in reality, they wanted Bisaccia. There's no doubt in my mind.
The tough thing about that is I think McDaniels is a very talented coach. I know his first stint as head coach didn't work out all that well. There was a whole Tebow situation and all that. He did win a playoff game, but he's also just not the most likable person. And I think that's what it boils down to is, are the Raiders in a good situation with him as head coach? I think they are. But when it comes down to, you had this guy, took over as an interim, got to the playoffs, the team loved him, and then you hire this guy that a lot of people think's a douche. I think that's what it boils down to is, we may be all right, but you know what? We don't like this guy. So
right.
That's going to be, can he, McDaniel's biggest job now is going to be, can he win over the locker room?
Right.
I think the thing with McDaniel, for me, as a fan out here and watching his team, is we've seen McDaniels over the years work with Tom Brady, and obviously with Brady, you're going to have some success. Yeah. We saw Josh McDaniels go to Denver and not do very well at all out there. We saw him come back, and now he worked last year with Mac Jones. I think, but for this success with Mac Jones, I still think that Josh McDaniels' career is a question mark.
Right.
So the job that he did with Mac Jones this past year was wonderful. So I think he kind of earned some more of that trust from me and other folks who may not have thought that he was a great coach apart from Tom Brady. So now he's got a chance. He's going to come to a situation where he's got a good quarterback in Derek Carr. So now it's going to be prove it. Tell me, do what you did with Carr. Do what you do with Carr as you do what you did with Brady, and then we'll see how things go.
Right.
Now let's talk about Sean Payton stepping down.
I completely forgot about that too.
What the hell?
Sean Payton. I think he's going to be that specter, that cloud that kind of hangs over AT&T Stadium in Dallas, because that's where he started. He was assistant coach under Bill Parcells when he was in Dallas. And I think that if I am the coach of the Dallas Cowboys right now, I am looking around, I'm looking over my shoulder, because one false move and you're gone, and Sean Payton is in my mind.
Right.
Mike McCarthy,
I agree with that.
He's like, there's Kellen Moore. And then there's Sean Payton. He's got both shoulders.
He's got both
shoulders. I did not even think about that. That is because he's not gonna get hired in the. I mean, there's only Miami, Houston, and New Orleans are the only openings still available right now.
Yes.
And obviously we mentioned a couple guys that we do think get head coaching jobs. Now that the Chiefs are eliminated, I hope Bieniemy is interviewing and getting one of these jobs. But I wonder when Sean Payton jumps back into the fold, because I think this is a step back year for him. I'm sure we'll see him on like the Fox pregame show, or he'll be involved with the media somehow. He's one of those personalities. But when that first crack opens, especially in a place like Dallas, his name's going to get brought up. That is a great point.
I see Sean Payton as a guy who probably needs a little bit of a break. I don't think we'll see him on the NFL sideline in week 1 of next year. No. But once those training camps come around and once the season opens up, he's going to have that off season where he wasn't doing all the work that head coaches do in the off season. I think he'll be ready to come back at some point next year.
He's going to be losing his mind. His wife's going to be like, can you get out of the house?
What are you doing here? It's September 1st. You shouldn't be here.
That's what it usually boils down to, I think. I think that's probably what happened with Peterson. All right. Yeah. So I guess we'll probably have some even more news with those 3 openings before we talk about the Super Bowl next week. But I guess I'll give you the floor, guys, before we jump into our award show. Anything to talk about the Pro Bowl? I'm out.
I got to say something. Who the hell died so that Lamar Jackson is one of the quarterbacks in the Pro Bowl? Where the fuck is Josh Allen?
Well, Josh Allen might be smart, because Josh Allen probably figures this is the week off for me. I can, be chilling on some beach somewhere.
Right.
So
right, but
again,
he's not playing in the Super Bowl, so why isn't he playing in the Pro Bowl?
These guys make up injuries or make up excuses because they don't even want to play in the Pro Bowl.
exactly.
It's the biggest crock. Like who cares? Who cares about the Pro Bowl? I will say, like, I don't care about the MLB All-Star Game, the NBA All-Star Game, the NHL All-Star Game, or the Pro Bowl. I don't care about any of them. I think they're all idiotic. I get why you have them and all that, and you got to honor the players. I think the players getting honored is fine, but the actual games are just the worst products you could possibly see. And out of the four, I think the Pro Bowl is the worst. Because you
You're
can't,
right.
like, they don't even tack. Like,
They can't hit.
I don't blame them. Because of course you're not going to play, like, football is a sport you can't play half-assed. So why even play it at all? So
hey, I might take a dare at some point. I'm gonna drive down to the stadium, the Legion Stadium. Have my pads and my cleats on and so forth, and my Jones is on the back of my jersey, and wonder if I'm going to say, hey, can you go play safety today? Can you play wide receiver today?
you probably
I do it.
You probably put more effort than the guys voted in. Yeah, it's let's move on.
Let's move on.
Let's get on to the first annual Smart Gamble Awards show.
Let's do it.
I can't wait. I think Lily came up with this idea a few weeks ago, and I completely forgot about it when we were trying to tease last week. But we had this award show in play. We're gonna, I guess, all three of us gonna give out a couple awards. You know, the big awards for the season, and I think we all got a couple fun awards. So, Lily, let's give you first honors on the first award. Who wins the the first annual Smart Gamble MVP?
You got to give it to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I also look at Derrick Henry. He was out for 10 weeks and still ranked 10th in his position in the NFL. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, I have to agree. I love Derrick Henry. When he was healthy, he was leading the NFL in rushing yards by a mile. And I think he was still leading. I think about three or 4 weeks after he got hurt, he was still leading the NFL in yards rushing.
Yeah, it was like, who's Cooper Kupp? Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. This is usually a quarterback award, so I agree with you, Lily. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, but you mentioned Cooper Kupp. Kupp, I think, led the league for receivers in receiving yards, touchdowns, receptions. He had a historic year, and I think this award, if it goes to a non-quarterback, it has to be Cooper Kupp. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jonathan Taylor is another guy that deserves being mentioned during this award, but I don't think deserving of actually winning the award. In my opinion, it's either Cooper Kupp if you're giving it to a non-quarterback, but as you said, MVP, whether it's right or wrong, has turned into a quarterback award, similar kind of the Heisman sometimes.
Exactly.
And I think Aaron Rodgers for the second straight. You'll be first annual Smart Gamble MVP, but the NFL second, the reigning MVP will likely be winning it again, and then taking his 2 awards somewhere else.
Exactly.
Back-to-back MVP, looking for a job soon. All right, well then let's move on to something we've been keeping our eye on throughout the entire season. I know we enjoyed talking about this. I think we might all be in agreement on this one as well. The Smart Gamble Coach of the Year.
Lily.
Got to be McVay.
Really?
Okay. Interesting.
I don't disagree, but it's not the name I thought you'd throw out.
No, actually, I mean, he pulled in some of the greatest players.
Right.
And he's just an amazing coach. He's got to be, I think he's the best.
Okay.
Or one of the best, at least.
Yeah, I too thought that you would probably go with somebody else. I thought you actually might go with Zach Taylor of the Bengals, who you mentioned in the past. My choice all along has been Mike Vrabel. What he's done with that team, they had the injuries. He lost Derrick Henry, I think, in week 7 or week 8, somewhere around there. I think Vrabel has done the best overall coaching job with the least amount of talent. I mean, to me, when your team is focused around a quarterback that's probably maybe a B minus, B solid B quarterback, and a running back in a passer's league, and you win that many games and dominate, I think that it has to be Vrabel in my mind.
I can't disagree with either of you said. I know, I think Vrabel, if you go to Vegas, CJ's already there. He beat us. Well, actually, you don't even have to go to Vegas anymore. Why do I say that? That's such an old saying. You can go to like 15 different states and do this. He is the betting odds favorite to win Coach of the Year, I believe, is Vrabel. I like what you said though with McVay about bringing in these players. It's kind of like the NBA Coach of the Year sometimes is like who can manage the personalities, or like Joe Torre when he was managing the Yankees.
Right.
Of course you're gonna win, but it's like managing the personalities on your roster. I think McVay definitely earned some credit and should be in the running for doing that with that Rams team, with some of the personalities they brought in on that team. But if no one else is gonna say it, I'm gonna say Zach Taylor. I mean, I know that, technically there's supposed to be regular season awards, and even if you want to go regular season, he's deserving, but the Bengals are in a Super Bowl. The Bengals were in the playoffs alone was an accomplishment.
Absolutely.
After picking the 5th overall pick this past draft. So I think all 3 guys are very deserving and will likely continue to be in the running for years to come. But I'm glad we had some disagreement and some discourse there. That was good. I like that.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think this next one we should. I think we all might have some differing ones because it's kind of open-ended. The Smart Gamble Surprise of the Year, Lily. We'll give you honors as well.
Okay, I got 2 different ones. First of all, the Bengals going to the Super Bowl. Who would have thunk? Right?
Who would have thunk it?
Maybe.
But of the devil.
There he is. There he is.
Biggest Bengals fan.
He's feeling very left out in postseason.
Biggest Bengals. Yeah, he's watching his Bengals win.
He is. But also the Chargers not making the playoffs.
Right.
That was a big surprise this season.
I forgot that they did it because of the way that season ended, and they were like a field goal away from that tie and that happening. You almost forget that they didn't.
Yeah. Justin Herbert, how could he not be in the playoffs?
I mean, I mentioned earlier when we were talking the perennial guys in the AFC, I mentioned the Chargers. They weren't in it this year. You're right.
Right.
And they were literally one timeout away from getting that tie. If the coach doesn't call a timeout late in that overtime, that game would have been in a tie and they would have been in the playoffs. So interesting stuff.
Yep.
I like it.
What do you guys have?
Surprise of the year. I think obviously the obvious choice is the Bengals on the positive side. I also think Mac Jones in my mind was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect to have him be that good and that poised with that team so early in his career in his first year. So I like Mac Jones there. I think on the negative side, how about the entire AFC North? Baltimore Ravens were like the team, the cream of the crop of the first half of the year, and then they tanked. Then you have, obviously Cincinnati being the top of that division. How about Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns? All the expectations they had coming into this year, and they just were terrible. So
my nephews predicted that they'd go to the Super Bowl.
A lot of teams,
they didn't even make it to the playoffs.
A lot of experts felt they were the next big thing, and they were terrible.
Yeah, I think they were a favorite to win that division and a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And they were in the right state. All those experts were in the right state, just wrong side of the state.
Exactly.
Cincinnati, not Cleveland. I think my biggest surprise of the year is right from your city there, CJ. It's the Raiders making the playoffs on top of everything they went through this season. I mean, you had all the text messages and all that stuff coming out about John Gruden. So they ended up firing their head coach. They've got an interim coach for over half of the season. Then you have the Henry Ruggs situation.
Right.
I mean, this team went through so much. I think it actually helped galvanize this team. And I don't think the Raiders were all I think people had decent expectations for them, but I don't think many, if you would have asked, the quote unquote experts, I think plenty of them would have had them missing the playoffs considering what division they play in. So I think the biggest surprise and kudos is to the Raiders making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're right. And to pick it back off of a point that Lily made a few minutes ago, I think that the Raiders and Chargers were kind of right there. I think people felt the Chargers were a better team, and the Raiders somehow figured out a way to slip past them and get into the playoffs with the Chargers missing out by literally, that one game.
Yep.
Right.
All right, so let's spin it here to the Smart Gamble disappointment of the season. I think there's plenty to choose from.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Lily.
I'm thinking, well, like you said before, CJ, the Ravens in general, they were a huge disappointment this year.
Yeah.
And then also I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence.
Number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, number 1 overall pick and did nothing with the Jaguars. They came in dead last.
Through a lot of
and then think about Jared Goff. He was winning with the Rams, goes to Detroit and just absolutely does nothing.
Yeah.
With Detroit.
Goff is a guy that's definitely rooting for the Bengals next week.
Yeah, I think with Goff, to your point, Lily, I mean, I think there were whispers in LA when he was there because he was with the Super Bowl with the Rams a few years ago.
He played in a Super Bowl.
His problem isn't necessarily his physical attributes; it's really up here.
Yep.
I think that they saw something, a weakness, maybe maybe a little bit soft, and they had to get rid of him. They weren't going to go any further with him at the quarterback position. So I think you're right. There's definitely a problem there.
Yep.
All right,
what about you guys?
What's yours?
What are you thinking?
I think with all the talent that Dallas Cowboys had in that roster, and for them to fall short and to fall on their face in that first round of the playoffs, I think, and again in a terrible division as well, I think they were definitely the biggest disappointment for me.
I always love when CJ loves sticking it at the Cowboys. I don't have to. I try not to be the biased Giants fan, and CJ picks up my slack. I love it. I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Lily said, and I think my biggest disappointment isn't quite Trevor Lawrence. It's Urban Meyer. And I think he's a big part of why Trevor Lawrence was a disappointment. Urban Meyer's a low-hanging fruit. There's the whether you believe him or not, quote unquote medical issues that got him out of Florida and when the allegations were coming and whatnot, and then he goes to Ohio State, and then obviously he had the whole co-ed thing this year at his bar, and he's the butt of a lot of jokes, but you can't deny that this guy is one of the brightest football minds maybe of all time. And when you look at what he's done in college football, he's one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. I was so looking forward to seeing what he could do in the NFL, and this is what I get. I was like, he's got Trevor Lawrence. I think he's actually got some decent talent on the wide receiver there. Couple guys on defense he can work with. I think the Jaguars might be all right. And this is what we get. So I'm going to throw Urban Meyer as my biggest disappointment of the season.
I'm gonna go a little further on Urban Meyer, Norm. I mean, I'm gonna come hard at this guy. First of all, Urban Meyer is a liar. He is not a good guy at all. He is just not a good guy. I saw those attributes when at the University of Florida.
Yep.
That he goes to Ohio State. The guy just does not understand what the truth means. And I'm not shocked that guy flamed out. I actually predicted he would flame out. He wouldn't last a year. And we saw all the evidence this past year, the co-ed thing and the bar.
He's a scumbag. He's a scumbag. I'm not trying to underplay that. I completely knew all of that going in, but you can be a scumbag and a really good NFL coach. I wanted
exactly
what he would do, and the scumbag part of him won out.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, they go to Cincinnati on a Thursday night game. They lose to the Bengals. He stays behind, says, hey, guys, you guys go ahead, go back home to Jacksonville. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be at this bar, have somebody grind up against my crotch, and then try to figure out a way to hide it from your wife. That dude is a bad guy, period.
I will throw out one other disappointment I had. I don't think they're the biggest. They're not deserving of the award because they're not the biggest disappointment of the year I had. But a team that really flew under the radar as a disappointment is the Seattle Seahawks. I think that whole division we saw what the Rams and the Cardinals and the 49ers did. And so I think they kind of flew under the radar, but all this Russell Wilson trade talk, they stunk this year.
They did. And I'm a Seattle fan because my twin sister lived there for many years.
Yeah.
Lori. Hi, Laura. Yeah, so I was a huge Seattle fan too.
Perennial contenders, and they've fallen to the cellar of that division.
Yeah, to your point, Lily, I'm also a fan of Seattle as well. I love the way they play when they're in their heyday. I love the way they play tough defense. I love the way they carry themselves.
Russell was awesome.
Yeah. But I think, unfortunately, I think their window of opportunity has passed, and they have to figure out a way to get as much as they can. I like Russell Wilson, but they've got to get rid of him, get a couple of draft picks, and just retool that team from the ground up.
And what do you think about Pete Carroll too, CJ? Should they get rid of him?
Still a good coach. I mean, he's 70 years old, I believe, or right around 70. Right. And so maybe, again, to our point earlier, where some of these younger
70 though.
yeah, that's true. But I think he's proven his point. He's won at the college level. He's won at the pro level. He doesn't need to do anything more at the NFL level. So if I'm him, I step aside and let somebody else come in and try to rebuild.
Do you think he does that this offseason?
It wouldn't shock me. But I think coaches like players kind of want to be forced out. I think he still think he's got something to give.
Yeah.
And I think if he has Russell Wilson next year, he stays. If they want to trade him,
if Russell leaves, that he might. That would put the Seahawks really behind. I mean, when you see a late offseason, I can't late offseason. The Super Bowl hasn't even happened, but even still, like the coaching carousel, we've been talking about it for a few weeks though. If you're like behind and you miss out on some of the hot candidates sometimes, that really puts you in a bind. And that'd be interesting to see if that happens in Seattle there.
There's one guy who I would love to see work with if they keep Russell Wilson in Seattle. One guy who I would love to see work with him, and that would be boy wonder of the Dallas Cowboys, Kellen Moore. Can you imagine Kellen Moore, an offensive guru, working with Russell Wilson? I'd pay to see that.
Right. Or if he somehow doesn't get one of the other jobs, I mean, Mahomes and Wilson are fairly, I think Mahomes has proven to be a little bit better, but don't discredit Wilson and his ability to create a run. I think Bieniemy can do some great work with him as well.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to some of the real smart gamble awards here. Lily, take the floor.
Okay, so my shit ass team of the year. I'm going back to the Ravens again. Because they were a huge disappointment this year.
Oh man.
And my shit ass player would definitely be Jared Goff.
Wow.
Going back to my disappointments.
Yeah.
And of course my daddy of the year would be Joe Burrow.
Hey.
Cincinnati. He's the man.
Cool. Joe Cool.
Burrow, I mean, it took how long for Burrow to get an award in this show? Come on. I think he'll be all right with Daddy of the Year. I think he's a lot of people's Daddy of the Year.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think on the negative side, I think I might throw Cam Newton and Baker Mayfield in that category as well.
Yes.
Cam Newton was terrible. I think his career, I think, is basically over right now. And I think Baker Mayfield's career is hanging by a thread. So we'll see what happens next year with those guys.
Yep.
All right, CJ, what do you got for some of your awards?
Well, I have one, and this is like the award that I would give to the guy. This is kind of how I want to go out, and a career-ending move. You used to have a situation like Antonio Brown, who's being told to go into a game. He refuses to go into the game. The coach says, "Hey, you're done right now. You're done." So hey, if I ever get fired from a job, I'm going to take off every single article of clothing, wave it around like this, shoot the moon, and then walk out of there. Tell HR to go stuff it. That's the way you go out. AB, you're my guy.
Oh man, pull it, AB. I like it.
I mean, and just the reactions of everyone on the sidelines was hilarious.
That was, I mean, hey, if you're losing to the Jets, I don't blame them. Like,
that's bad enough as it is.
Contenders, screw this. Yeah, that was. I almost forgot. That's one of the moments of the season. Oh my god.
Totally.
Too funny.
Only AB.
What else you got, CJ?
That's the main one for me. That's the main one.
So I'll throw some fantasy awards out since that was my shtick early on. I think the best fantasy pick, I think he's garnered enough awards, but he deserves it just because of this stat. Cooper Kupp. If you had him, you probably won your championship. You won your league. This guy, if you follow fantasy, when you look at the top players at the end of the season, more often than not, it's a good like 5 quarterbacks at the top just because they're able to score so many points. And then you start getting your top running backs, top receivers. This guy, if you go to the standard scoring on ESPN, had 32 more points than anyone else this entire season, including quarterbacks. This guy outscored all the quarterbacks in fantasy.
Amazing year. Amazing year.
Cooper Kupp won you your league if you picked him. So I think he deserves best fantasy pick of the year. Then the why the hell did I pick this guy award? I think you could throw out a couple guys. Like me personally, it'd be Gus Edwards, just because you pick the guy and then he's injured and out for the season like a week later. But I think that's a little tough to give to a guy just for getting injured. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw it out just for getting my Giants bias out too. Saquon Barkley was average drafted in the mid to late first rounds. He was a first round pick. And this guy averaged just over a little over 11 points per game, which doesn't sound terrible, but let me throw you out some names. So other running backs that averaged more points per game than Saquon Barkley, who was, again, a first-round draft pick this year. Devin Singletary, Darrell Williams, and J.D. McKissick. All averaged more points than Saquon Barkley this year.
Wow.
Well, Norm, you and I had a little conversation earlier in the season about what the Giants should do with this new situation coming up, and I told you, I think that I think people like Daniel Jones, sit him down or trade him, and I would trade Saquon Barkley right now for the highest bid. Okay, running backs in general don't really bring you an awful lot as far as your offense goes, and I think he's still young enough and still marketable enough. You can get rid of him now
for a second-round draft pick. Yeah,
I'd say cut ties.
I completely would agree with you. If we're restarting, if we're hitting the reset button, they might as well truly hit the reset button. Especially because even if they're good, Saquon, I know he's talented. I just don't know if his style works in the NFL as much as it did in college anymore. But even all that said, even if they're good, I just don't like paying running backs, and you're gonna have to pay them a boatload. So I agree with you there. Tough season for Saquon and the Giants in general there. All right, guys. I guess that's the first annual Smart Gamble Awards show.
There we go.
We didn't have a red carpet or anything, but we'll send those awards out to everyone that won. They'll be in the mail, guys.
It'll be in the mail.
And I guess we'll start wrapping up the show, guys, with the Super Bowl is next week. Where the hell did the season go?
It's always sad when the NFL season is the shortest season of the year. I hate it because it is so short, and it's like 6 months of the dry dead time of the season between February and July. So, but we'll see hopefully Super Bowl will give us something to really want to hold on to for a few months, and it'll be a good entertaining game.
Right. Can we get spoiled for a third straight? Well, not a third straight week because we got this bogus week with the Pro Bowl, but can we get spoiled with a third straight week of games after the divisional round and championship round? Can we get a good? I will say this: outside of that Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl that was at MetLife Stadium,
yes,
we have had great Super Bowls for the last 2 decades almost. I think that's something that people don't always kind of realize is the first 30 Super Bowls. there's a lot of stinkers when you go back to watch those first handful of Super Bowls. The current era of Super Bowls, you got a lot of great games. So hopefully this one is added to the list.
We shall see.
I'm looking at the Bengals. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1980 and 1988.
Right. Well, it's just been in it, so they never won one.
They never won it. They actually were in it, but they hadn't won it.
Right.
So
That's
yeah.
right. That's
So this
right.
might be their first one. Joe Cool might deliver the first one. We'll see.
Let's see. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be very exciting.
The Rams, you got to go back to Kurt Warner beating the Titans on that Mike Jones tackle.
That is true.
Right.
That is true.
Kevin Dyson stretching that ball out, but yeah, I think there's a couple storylines. Obviously, we're going to be making our picks and doing some prop bets. We'll make it a real fun show as we close out the season next week.
And we're probably going to do it at Castellanos,
right,
in Mount Pocono.
Right.
Nice.
So should be on location yet again. Should be a fun show. But
that'll be a lot of fun.
But real quick, at least we can think. I think. Let me know if you guys agree. So the first Super Bowl in a long time. I actually had the stat here. This is the first time in 20 years now. I think it's either 19 or 20 years that either Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Big Ben Roethlisberger, or then you also have to throw in the 49ers because the only 2 years that those guys were involved, the 49ers were in. So just to make it even a longer space, that none of those four things are involved. So it's the first time I think that the general consensus of America, the casual fan, can go, I don't care who wins.
Mm.
You don't root against Brady. You're not rooting against
right.
You're not rooting against the Patriots. You're not rooting against like one of the usuals that's always in the Super Bowl. And it's like some new faces that you could say like, hey, I don't really care who wins. I just want a good game.
Yeah, hopefully the NFL is. I mean, this season was indicative. It was crazy endings and teams that we didn't expect beating teams that we expected to win. Hopefully, this is a situation where times are changing in the NFL. There's a sea change. I think it's for the good.
Yeah.
We're seeing some new faces, and I think it should be a pretty exciting time in the NFL in the years to come.
I agree.
And I think it's going to be close. I think the 4.5 point spread, I think it's going to be closer than that.
Mm.
I was just about to bring up. So the lines, as of right now, we'll see how much they change over the next week when all the money starts coming in, when people realize the Super Bowl's this week. But yeah, Rams favored by 4.5 right now, and the over/under is 48.5. So keep that in mind for next week when we make our picks. But I did want to make one real quick note on the people rooting against. I am rooting against the Rams. I don't want to see Odell win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. You can't have a rough breakup like that and then want to see your ex do well. That's just human nature. That's just,
it always comes down to love, sports and love, you could always make any comparison to love. So, hey, I hear you.
Yeah. You just wouldn't put bad taste in my mouth. So
look at how cute this stuffed animal is. It's Carrie the carrot.
Nice. It's our new mascot for the show.
It is. Angie gave it to me.
Nice.
On that note, we are done here. This has been the Smart Gamble Awards show. We will be back to close out the season next week with our Super Bowl show. Hope you guys enjoyed kind of like a sports talk show for like the first time in a while here. No kind of picks, but hopefully we keep you entertained here, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or watching on YouTube. We appreciate it. Of course, check out thesmartgamble.com to get some picks and check us out and contact us for anything that you may need to do. Like, subscribe, share wherever you are watching and listening. We always appreciate that. We appreciate just anyone reaching out, and commenting on the show. You can leave a comment on YouTube as well. So we will talk to you guys next week on location and wrap up the show. Hope you guys enjoy it.
All right.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining.